a topic, and the topic, please not the same topics you've done before. New topics, hopefully what we cover in the second half of the semester. Externality is a big one. Information, game theory, monopoly. There's a lot of things. Price discrimination that you can talk about. So first of all, you nail down your topic and then you do a paper draft. Okay, and get help from Writing Center at this point if you want. And from here, you do your presentation with your PowerPoint. Okay, remember minimum, I think it's 8 slides. And then followed by, so after your presentation, there will be feedback from me and some of them among your fellow students. And if they are very good comments, I sometimes ask you to incorporate that into the final paper. And this is when you have to be sure that you have a Writing Center visit, appointment. So do it now. Look at your date. What day are you presenting? Typically, a day before the paper due is a good day to go to make appointment for the Writing Center. And I think I have told you before, they are very packed towards the end of the semester. So make sure you make appointment now. You could do that online. I think didn't we have Writing Center people talk about it? Okay.
Is that optional, the Writing Center?
Okay, that was based on the comments you got last time. Remember I wrote something at the end of your paper? If you get 3-star and I say Writing Center note is required, that means yes, that's your 5%. Now, if I say it's highly encouraged, I'll leave it as optional, but I could tell you that sometimes I regret writing that because still, you could have done better if you have someone proofread your paper. So there's 5 points there included in the, if you have a Writing Center note. If you have someone proofread it.
Is that extra?
Yes.
Or is that gonna be like extra points or?
No, it's part of it.
Okay.
It's actually part of it, yeah.
Okay.
So, because usually about 90%, 85 to 90% of students need it, so I make it as part of it rather than extra. But you always could get extra because you never know what I throw out. Because towards the end of the semester, like I say, I'm rather generous. I want to give you stuff, I want to give you points, but you have to be here to get it. You know, it's no point saying, I got points, come on, you know, I want to give to you. You're not here. I can't give to you. So you have to show up to earn it. Okay, so we talk about all that. Okay, so we're towards the end now. Now, for the test, right, on Monday, Tuesday, next Tuesday, that will be only 2 chapters, so that should be easy to some extent. I'm trying to look for where I stop. I think I stopped right here. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that's where I stopped. Okay, very good. How many of you actually do the flash quiz like before the test? I mean, not just minutes before, but you know, at home you. Okay, did it help some? Some, but remember that they're not exactly the same. I tend to ask more applied questions, and this question you get are mostly what do I call them? They are mostly the more like a concept, you know, things like that. Okay, let's see how many students we have today. Did everybody sign attendance? Okay, this is, what are we, spring 2016. Okay, so at the end of this class, if I have time, I would like to do a teaching evaluation on myself. So I would ask Nicholas, would you help me to collect that?
Yeah.
To pass out the form and then just, because this is the last day I teach. But then, you know, we will have presentation, we will have tests, we will have homework assignment. So typically, this is a better time to do a teaching evaluation. And remember too that about your one of the way to design this writing intensive enhanced class is a lot of times students do not do so well on the test. So your paper and presentation carries about 30%, and that helps students a lot. Basically, in the past, when I may have explained this to you. How many of you have taken statistics? No? Okay. So typically, students are not so good with taking tests, although there are some exceptions. This is not called normal distribution in statistics. This is teachers' heaven. Meaning, if you get a class of, this is all the A's, this is like the F, and everybody kind of like cluster in the middle, like B, C, D, especially C right here, so that's good. But a lot of time without the paper, we get like this skew to the right. So you have, maybe 1 or 2 A, B, and then everybody's just kind of like. So I don't like that because I think one of the things that make the principles of microeconomics interesting is after you study the concept, what can you apply in your daily life, So, and when you look for a paper, and some of you have done it, you pick the topics you're interested in: sports, cosmetics, fashion design, or designer clothing, things like that, and then you apply it. And it makes more sense to you because that's your application, and then we learn from it. So that's usually the highlights of the presentation time. I look forward to it. And if you have any question, you could send me email, okay? And again, if you want me to run, if you want to run it by me, your article, just to make sure you're in the right direction, if you want to discuss with me, please do so. I wish more students would do that, but please do so. Have my office out or just send me email. I'll be glad to send it to you. I don't think we have any more homework assignment. Oh yeah, we do have one more homework assignment due. Yes. Okay, that one is not due until next Tuesday. You have your test. Okay, and remember the tutors still have his hours, so do use a tutor's hours. Once in a while, if nothing else, I do give incentive for students to attend the tutor's hours, and especially if you're kind of like borderline, but you show efforts in going to see the tutors, sometimes you take that into consideration. So okay, that's all I have to say, yeah. So back to our public good and private good. So we have said that some of the public good are not always provided by government. Okay, so sometimes you have private provisions of public good. So this is where we left off last time. And some of them are funding by donation. For example, like certain parks or high school, they name it, or even a hospital, and name it after certain donors. Okay, so, and that's because it's largely funded by the private persons or organization or entities. You see a lot of big hospitals in this country basically have the religious, right, like a name like Presbyterian or Methodist, because basically funded by private entities, not non-for-profit organizations. So not all the hospitals are funded by the government. Okay, we talk about development of new means to exclude non-payers. Like one good example would be cable company. You hear about people stealing from cable company. You don't subscribe to it, but you could buy device, that could let you have it for free. It's illegal, don't do it. Please don't try it on your own. So the device that people could use to, scramble the signal and then de-scramble it. So if the cable company is one step ahead, they could come up with better or higher form of technology that could overcome that, so they could exclude people from non-payers from the services that, because those people are trying to steal because they don't want to pay for it. In a lot of countries I've been to, I think I remember, if you live kind of like by the coastline, you could get signal from another country, not too far away, for free. if you have a satellite. And sometimes people boast about it, but then I was thinking like, you really, you're not paying for it. And say, oh yeah, it's free, you know, I mean, I didn't ask for it, it just come to my house because I'm able to pick up the signal. Okay, sell or buy products, I talk about it. Saturday morning, it's kids like to watch cartoons on Saturday morning because that's when cartoons are shown. And so a lot of time you see, commercials on the kids' cereal because that's the best time to advertise for it. Whereas a prime time like Monday through Friday, what do they advertise now? I don't even know because I don't have TV at home. What do they advertise prime time now? Like when you watch whatever show, what kind of things do they advertise now on TV? You'll watch TV, I assume. What did they have? Do they still have, I know it used to have a lot of soap and detergent, stuff like that. Do they still do that? Still? Okay.
Maybe food and like cable and stuff like that.
Okay, more like services.
Yes.
Food? What kind of food are you talking about?
Lots of fast food. You see lots of fast food.
Oh, that kind. Okay, Procter Gamble stuff? Like crackers and... Okay, so this is called sell or buy product because basically these people, this big company, cereal company, or Procter & Gamble is very famous for that. Do they still advertise like chips, like Frito-Lay? They do, okay. So these are the big companies that advertise during prime time. They have to buy the commercial, the ad. It's very expensive. But then pretty much the programs are being sponsored by them. So advertisement is one of the big part in business making. So in this case, it's sponsored for the program. But they say, well, you have to let us have a few seconds of commercial, to your viewers. Okay, so let's look at the economic surplus. How do we apply it to pay-per-view TV? So here's the example of when you charge and when you don't charge. So this is a pay-per-view fee, and we want to look at whether there's any loss in economic surplus, and you already know there is. Okay, so at the beginning, if you charge, say, $10 per episode charging, so people have to pay, then you have 10 million households viewing it. Okay, so but if you're not charging anything, means you're at the bottom, right? That's your marginal cost here. Then, whoa, what happened? Twice. The size of the household will be watching it. So that's 20 million right there. So then you say, okay, so there's a difference between this $10 here and how many people will be watching, how many people will not be watching. So therefore, and remember that your demand curve is your marginal benefit. We talk about it so much. And then your supply curve is basically right here at the bottom. So that's your marginal cost. It intersects with your marginal benefit. At that point, here it is your, this is your marginal cost, that horizontal line, and this is your marginal benefit. So where they intersect with, that's your 20 million. Okay, so in other words, if you're not charging for anything, that's how many household will be viewing for the program. But if you start charging like $10 and the number of households viewing the program will drop by 10 million. So this area here, we have not deviated from economics all this time. So this triangle here, because we have a name for it, what is it?
Dead weight loss.
Dead weight loss, yes. So you see, we keep coming back to this concept because it's economic loss. So meaning that there's inefficiency in charging for public program. And the economic loss in economic surplus, you could calculate that. So that would be the area of that triangle. And this is a very typical test question we ask you. What is the amount of the economic surplus being lost? So you just calculate the area of the triangle. So again, that would be 10, half base times height, remember? So half of, this is 10 million, so half of that would be, okay, so let's do it quickly. half base times height, so half your base would be 10 million, excuse me. Yeah, well, you're calculating this triangle here. So the difference here will be 10 million. This would be $10. So half base times height, so 10, and you got 10 millions here. It's gonna be like that. And so half of that, so 5, so you got 50 million is the answer. So remember, millions means you have 6 zeros here. So, okay, so that's a typical kind of question you can expect. So let's look at another example. What about if you buy a car and you get taxed? And so at the beginning, if you look at this is your supply curve. How do we describe this supply curve? Anybody? Okay, horizontal line. What's the economic term that we use? Starts with E. Okay, it is elastic. It is perfectly elastic, correct? Because it's flat. Okay, and your demand curve is a normal downward sloping demand curve. So in this case, we say, oh, there will be 20,000 for the car and 6 millions, 20,000 per car, new car. And then this will be 6 million. If it is 20,000 per car, then the demand and supply for car would be about 6 million a year. We say, how about if we tax? Okay, so let's see what happens. If there's a tax being imposed, and remember this is on the supply side. So since this is perfectly elastic or a horizontal line, we raise it by the amount of tax exactly. So let's just say the tax is 2,000, okay? So once you raise it up here, that would be 22,000. So you pay for 22,000 for a car, 2,000 of it goes to 100%, your tax collector. Okay, so now have you noticed that in this case, right, the tax is totally borne by who? Consumer or the producer? Consumer, because it's flat on the supply side, right? So therefore, that's what happened. And so what we say that tax always have this problem. Remember that we talked about it in earlier chapter that every time you have government intervention. So let's do a quick review. Anybody remember what were the government intervention we talked about since the beginning of the semester? Like chapter 1 we talked about it, chapter 3. We talk about government intervention. There are at least 4 forms of government intervention we talk about. Every time the government intervenes, there is result in some sort of inefficiency. So what are some of them?
Subsidy.
Class participation, come on, I'm willing to give you the point. Nicholas, yes.
What subsidy do you want?
I'm sorry?
A subsidy?
Again?
A subsidy?
A subsidy, okay, very good. Subsidy is considered a negative tax. Subsidy is good, but then it has some inefficiency also. What else?
Price ceiling and price floor.
Very good. Price ceiling and price floor. Okay, what are example of price ceiling? What are example of price floor?
Rent could be
Okay, rent control, which one?
price ceiling.
Very good.
The minimum wage for price floor.
Okay, minimum wage is for the price floor. One more, I just mentioned it. Okay, taxation. Remember we talked about various forms of tax the other day. So anytime that you have this intervention, it results in some sort of inefficiency. Okay, and so in other words, we have dead wage loss. So there it is, that triangle right there where you see, right, is your dead weight loss. And again, you could calculate that easily. So with tax, you could see that less people are willing to pay because the final price is 22,000. It will surprise you so much. And I guess it's not surprising. Even $2,000 increase, people would say, oh, I wouldn't buy it. So there it is. It drops by 2 million from 6 million to 4 million. So that area of the triangle, and usually dead weight loss is being calculated by the discrepancy before and after. The quantity is the base, the price difference is your height. And don't forget, when you do your test, always halve it, because if you don't, then you're getting the rectangle, you're getting this whole thing here. Remember to multiply it by half, so then you get the half the amount. So what this is saying is, yes, every time you charge a tax, there will be some sort of inefficiency where you can measure it by the area of the triangle or the dead weight loss, right there. So, and in this case, since the supply curve is totally flat or horizontal, or we call perfectly elastic, so all the burdens of the tax is being borne by the consumer. Okay. Again, we talk about why it is not efficient for the public good under one condition to be charged any price. And the reason is because the marginal cost is zero. So, now, if you charge a price when the marginal cost is zero, then basically you're reducing the economic surplus. You're not quite using the economic principle to charge. And then we say that, well, that's why public goods are provided by the government, like public prison, public school, public hospital, because after a certain point, after you have factored in all the overhead, right? I mean, hospital, you build it, is a lot of money that goes into it. And after some time, you have to maintain it. Same thing with building a bridge, building a school, a park. You have to maintain the park, that's for sure. Otherwise, it's just, nobody wants to use it because it's, people will throw trash, no one pick up the trash, so it has to be maintained. The grass has to be trimmed, it should be some landscaping and going on. So basically, again, we say if the marginal cost is zero, it is more efficient for the government to provide for the public good instead of the private entity. And look at that last line. This is a hint for your test question. The more elastic the demand, the greater the loss in the economic surplus. Okay, make a note on that point. We're going to go back to this here, and I'm going to ask you a question visually. So watch where's my attendance sheet? Okay, I'm going to use this piece of paper as an example. Okay, like as though this is a ruler. Did I have an attendance sheet? I thought you gave it to me, right? Didn't you?
I did.
I'm sorry?
I'm sure I did.
Yeah, I can find it. I don't know what happened. Oh, right here. That's what I'm holding. I was going to use it as a ruler. Yeah. Well, let's use this one so I can mark on this. Gee. Okay. So, right. Okay, I'm going to use this paper as an example. Like this is a ruler. So if you look at this area of the triangle, right? Now I'm going to make this demand curve somewhat more elastic and somewhat less elastic. So if I want to make it more, okay, let's start with easy one. If I want to make it less elastic, that demand curve should shape what way? Okay, you're doing your hand. Morgan, can you explain it?
It would go more vertical.
Okay, very good. I like what she just said. More vertical. She's right. So instead of like flat like that, the demand curve will look more like that. Yeah? So if it is more like that, look what happened. The triangle will become smaller, right? So therefore, it reduces the dead weight loss if the demand curve is more inelastic. But what if it is more elastic? So then you will have a line like that cutting across, and you actually will have more area of the triangle extended out. So that means the more elastic the demand is. Let's go back to that point. Okay, the more elastic the demand is, the greater is the loss in economic surplus. Whether if it is more inelastic, then, suddenly your triangle becomes smaller. So you have less price elasticity, you have less economic loss in, less loss in economic surplus. Okay. Next point is we talk about regulation. Now, regulation is a big thing. So when you do your paper, if you want to do regulation, there's all kinds of regulation. EPA has regulation for pollution emissions, for example. Okay, so, and that is why law and economics go together very well, because when a lot of this regulation, they use economic principle. So pollution, if there's pollution, what we call negative externality, then there need to be some regulation to cut down pollution. Who is a better person to impose it? The government, usually. So we have EPA. Education, since we say that education is a form of blank externality, positive, not negative, so is healthcare. So therefore, it pays for the government to subsidize it. So this is a very interesting thing that you could find these articles all over the place if you want to talk about how the government subsidizes education. And you could just kind of like describe government subsidy and then how much money goes into it. And then argue your point that, this is positive externality, therefore the government pays for it. Government subsidizes. So is healthcare. I always have students who want to do healthcare, but please don't do it for the sake of doing it. Do it for the sake of bring out the argument that this is positive externality, and that's why we got this subsidization going on. Okay, what about definition enforcement of property rights? Okay, we got this problem we talked about in the earlier chapter, the tragedy of the commons. So there's problem, we talk about pirates roaming in the water, because it's very hard to say, where's your territory, because the ocean does not have a line, a clear defined line. So how do you enforce it? Okay, zoning laws, we talked about it, there were a few things that we talked about zoning law. Anybody remember the examples I gave previously when we mentioned the word zoning law? Remember we gave the example about Foot Lion and Piggery Wiggery, game theory example, trying to close the store like as late as possible so they could get more customers. How about instead of closing 11 p.m., we close at midnight? How about closing at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? Why don't you just open 24 hours? And there's no competition, just make it easy. But then you know that there will be some wee hours of the morning that you don't get any customers, right? They are sleeping. So maybe 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you might get some early birds. The senior citizen will come in, but for the most part, maybe between 2 to 5, those are the graveyard hours. So what's the point of leaving them open and then extra pay, overpay for your workers, have the electricity on, the whole store, talking about, say, Walmart, So that's when we talk about zoning laws plays a role here. That is, you could just say, that's it, everybody closes at 12 p.m. When we talk about the beach houses, how you could paint it pastel color, right? Bright yellow, bright purple, green, and blue. It's okay. Orange is very bright because, it's fine to do it if you are living by the beach because that attracts people. People want to relax. But if you're living in the gated community, you don't want to start painting a house purple. And common sense would tell you, oh man, no way, it would devalue the property. So that's what zoning laws comes in. There are actually laws like that that say you cannot paint your house purple. Okay, so let's look at some of the, what are some advantages of having a separate government, like state government, federal government, or having it at the regulation at the local level. So again, there's a lot of application here. So we do not want to use one size fits all, right? Because the federal government is good for certain program like law enforcement, like you have U.S. military, you have Coast Guard, you have, what do you call that? The firefighters. What's the thing that, you have ROTC, the Air Force and all that. National Guard, that's one I was trying to get it. So these are all run by the federal government because there's some kind of economies of scale. Can you imagine, does it pay to have the US Army in every state, run by every state? Well, yeah, they do have an office that does that, but then the whole program is basically run by the federal government because there's such a thing called economies of scale. As you produce more units cost, your average total cost comes down. Okay, so there is, but if you have a local and state government, they know your needs a little bit better, okay? So like, for example, in this place, this is Pembroke. So if you have a local mayor, they know the needs of the people better. They know how to serve the people a little bit better because it's a unique area. You have more Lambies here than any other places elsewhere. So you could communicate better with the citizen if you have a state government taking care of some regulation. And on the other hand, like I say, there's economies of scale when it comes to defense spending because that's a lot of money poured into that. It doesn't pay for each government from each state or each city or town to have your separate defense spending. So because there's overhead involved. Okay, and positive and negative externality may be nationwide. So, do you see now, so by now you should be able to just really appreciate, why do we have public hospital? Why do we have public school, which most of you attended before you came to college? Why do we have public park? And because of this thing called negative and positive externality. So therefore, it's better to be provided by government. Pork barrel spending. So now, what is pork barrel spending? Okay, so this is something that it's government spending that's kind of like wasted. So that's a quick way to define it. But what exactly it is? And in your textbook, it asks a question: why do legislators often support one another's pork barrel spending program? Again, what is pork barrel spending? And this is basically a public expenditure, to be more specific, that is larger than the total benefit that it creates. However, it is favored by a legislator, singular, because his or her constituents benefit from the expenditure by more than their share, resulting extra taxes. In other words, I think this is better to you if I give an example, okay? And basically is some sort of waste in government spending. That's a quick way of explaining it, but after you see the example, you will understand it a little bit better. Okay, the word log rolling, which you also see in your textbook, this is a practice where legislators actually support each other legislative proposals. For example, so let's look at example, then we go back to the definition. If you have a congressional district with 100 taxpayers, okay, remember 100. So there is cost, there is benefit. The local representative delivers a project that creates 100 million in benefits. So remember that benefits is 100 million. I'm just going to use M, and the cost is 150 million. So okay, it costs more. How is this going to be financed? The cost is going to be shared by all these 100 constituents or districts. So you take 150 million, the total cost, divide by 100. Each district will pay only 1.5 million. But what about the benefit? This is interesting. The benefits usually is accrued to only one district, or a few districts. I wouldn't say exactly one. So in this case, what this is saying is, oh yeah, the benefit, it only benefit one or two districts, which is the minority. But then look, everybody has to fork out 1.5 million. But guess what? They say it's all right. We'll do it for you this time. But next time, when another bill comes that I need your favor, you would vote for it. So this is called pork-barrel spending. Basically, you don't certain districts will not everybody benefit from it, okay? But then they do favor for each other. So that's what it is. The economic surplus to the district residents is the one who benefit out of it. Yeah, they get the benefit of 100 million, but they only pay 1.5 million. So at the end, they get a lot more. But then there's other places they don't get the benefit. Now they're willing to do it for that few districts that benefit from this program. Now this could be building, I don't know, like nuclear energy or whatever out in the desert. So, you know, you want to bid for the program to come, so this will bring jobs to the town, to the city in which you're in, a city out in the desert. And so you would ask for other people to vote for you, other districts. You say, please vote for me now. I know this only benefit a few of us this time round, but the next time you need something, I will vote for you. This is politics, and that happens. That's how a lot of things are done. So let's go back there and look at that definition. Pork-barrel spending is a public expenditure that's larger than the total benefit it creates, but that is favored by a legislator or a few legislators because his or her constituents benefit from the expenditure by more than their share of resulting extra taxes. So in other words, other districts help pay for it, help finance for it. So which means we come to this very important economic term. If you type in this, if you Google this term, right, a lot of things will come up. This is definitely a big application. And then you could look at it in the sports, in whatever industry you're interested in. But a lot of time when you do search, right, you have to go for the key economic concept you want to do. Like rent seeking would be a good example. Last baseball, then you look at what comes up. Okay, so usually you pick an economic term and then plus the industry you're interested in. Or it could be rent seeking plus healthcare, rent seeking plus education, rent seeking plus welfare program. I'm giving you the techniques to search for your article you'll be presenting. Okay, what exactly is rent seeking? Rent seeking. This is an economic term in which it's described as socially unproductive efforts of people or firms to win a prize. So the case that we just explained, right, where only certain constituents benefit from whatever project that they get from the federal government, but you know, basically everybody help to pay for it, but then they are the one who benefit, not everybody else. So we say, we smell. What do we smell? We smell dead weight loss. We smell this loss of economic surplus. There's inefficiency there. There is dead weight loss. There's this bad triangle going on there. We smell it. Okay, there it is. That's what it is. Inefficiency happens when the gain from a government program are concentrated in the hands of a few beneficiaries. A lot of times that happens. Look at some of these African countries out there. People are starving to death. US aids are out there to give out food supplies, all that. They're not getting to the people. Why? Because there are some corrupted government who collect them and then benefit themselves, their family and their close relatives, and then the majority of the population is still starving. That's rent seeking. Corruption will make that happen. The costs are spread among men. So this is a very interesting thing that you could find, you know, and then tell the class about it. What do you feel passionately about? A certain topics, and then tell us about it. Apply economic principle. There's your chance. Get us all excited. There's your chance to tell us. Okay, let's give another example. Sugar. Do you know how much sugar an average American consume a year? You don't know. Okay, well, let's do it slowly. If if there's a price support bill, like the sugarcane industry say, oh yeah, we want to raise the price of sugar by 10 cents per pound. You think that's a lot? Would that make people stay away?
No.
No, because the consumption of sugar is considered elastic or inelastic. Let's see if you understand. Is it inelastic or elastic? It's inelastic because inelastic means go ahead, raise the price. I'm a business traveler, right? So go ahead, raise the price. It's not going to, bend my pocket or anything like that. I'll still go because I have a board meeting in Chicago tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so you're at the mercy of the industry. Price go up and also sugar is like that, inelastic. Gasoline price is like that, gasoline, right? If we raise the price, say, oh yeah, I gotta go to class today. I gotta go to work. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna close my eye. Whatever the price is, I'm gonna go. Until one day it hit $5 per gallon and say, oh, let's use scooters, skateboard, bicycles, motorcycles, yeah. These are some options. Oh, public transportation. We got bus, don't we? I know, that would be like waiting forever. Okay, so here's the point. Average American consume 100 pounds of sugar per year. Did you know that? Do we have anybody weight about 100 pounds here? Okay, don't raise your hand. we were once 100 pounds, right? Everybody have gone through 100 pounds and then you go up. Some of you, well, yeah, I think most of us are over. Okay, so you have some idea what 100 pounds is like. That is a lot. Okay, and demand for sugar is inelastic. So yeah, some people say it's okay, I'll just take the dessert, Yeah, I don't like eating apples the way it is because it's so crunchy. But if you put it in the dessert, I'll eat it. You heard people say things like that. Oh, peach is so. I like to eat it whole. And say, well, yeah, if you put it in the dessert together with this fruit salad, I'll eat it. But then the problem is when you put it into the fruit salad, people add sugar to it. Okay, so you get the point. People like sweet and say, well, yeah, a 10 cents per pound is nothing. Well, that's what we think, we're consumers. Did you know that 100 pounds of sugar per year? Whoa, really? Okay, so what's the outcome? Consumer expenditure on sugar will increase by slightly less than $10 per year. Yeah. Take that, multiply by that. But revenue to the sugar industry. Thank you, consumers who love sweet. They say thank you because it will increase by $1 billion a year. No wonder industry would lobby in this favor. Okay, we get $1 billion a year because we are looking at approximately 100,000 household. If you divide by American household, maybe 3 on average, so 300 some million. So divide by 3, so you have about 100 million there. So therefore, you multiply by 10, you get about 1 billion a year. So what this is saying is that sometimes you don't realize, those people are happy. Well, I wouldn't say they take advantage of us, but there is a so-called rent seeking that's going on. Consumers are not aware, but out there in the industry, they benefit. Okay, how many of you have heard about Milton Friedman? Some of you have taken Principles of Macro, right? Okay, Peter, you heard about him. What do you know about him? Anything?
I watched a special on him. He was a
I'm sorry?
Nobel Prize. He was a Nobel. He got won a Nobel Prize for economics
Yes, very good. Do you know what year?
in the 70s, I think.
Okay, very good. Around 1979. He was famous for quantity theory of money. Okay, Nobel Prize winner in economics. And I think it's about 79. And that's about the same time that the Latin American economies have crisis. They have inflation that's like 80-some%. That's very high. So Milton Friedman quantity theory of money was able to predict and explain what happened during the Latin American crisis. The pesos were losing value. They wanted to hang on to US dollars. So what happened was, this is his equation, this is money, V stands for velocity, the speed of money traveling, P stands for price, Y stands for income. So what he's saying is, if we assume income and velocity to be constant, then every time you increase the money by 10%, you would also increase the inflation by 10%, according to this equation. And what happened in Latin American countries, they don't have enough money. So they have deficit. Deficits means the government spend too much than what they collect as a tax revenue. So if you can't collect enough tax to keep up with your government expenditure, what's one way you could do? What's one way that some third world economies were doing, and then they suffer today, very high inflation rate? That is to print money. Have you heard about it? Printing money? The government would print, because that's how they boost that money supply, They print your own money in your backyard. No, I mean legally, the government do it. Okay? So you look at some of those African countries out there. I'm trying to give, Zimbabwe is a good example. So we had a student one time, he did a presentation, macroeconomics presentation. He showed us a money note. He said, oh yeah, this is, I don't know how many millions, but it's worthless. And he also showed that inflation has gone up by, more than 100%. It was like a few thousand%, because that government was printing money. And we had a student from, I think it's, Lake Ghana, trying to remember one of the African countries. He said, yeah, our government did the same thing. Where they were printing money. Okay, so that's Milton Friedman's legacy. If you go to any used price bookstore today, I guarantee you, if you look at the economics section, how many of you go to that Edward McKay's bookstore? In Fayetteville, there's a used price bookstore. It's on Breck Boulevard. It's a good store. Anyway, if you look at the economics section, you will always see his book. And one particular copy of the book is called Free to Choose. Came out in about the same time, 79, 80. It's so famous. Economic students, most economic students know about it if you major in economics. Anyway, so what did Milton Friedman say? He said, no bureaucrat spends taxpayer money as carefully as those taxpayers themselves would have. We would agree. Government employees do not always face a strong incentive to get the most for what they spend. I mentioned to you countries in Japan, right? Like Japan in the 90s, it went through a great depression, just like what U.S. experienced a Great Recession since 2007. Same thing, their mortgage they were having some problem with this housing prices going up, and so they experienced that same thing before it hit the U.S. So it was like the economy stayed stagnant for 10 years at least. I don't think they quite recovered from it yet. So don't buy any stock from Japan, even though they're big companies out there. So they're not quite recovered from it. And one of the reasons is, I told you the housing bubble, same thing happened. So they try to get the economy going, pumping the economic activity. So they built bridges and highway. But guess what? Nobody uses highway. Nobody uses bridges. They're rich. They have to spend the money, because spending the money means, government expenditure means you pump money into the economy, your GDP will go up. But it's a waste, because nobody used them. Now, did I tell you about that bridge that was built in the Middle East, Qatar, somewhere in one of the Arabian countries? They will have a bridge. Is this class? It must be the macro class. So I forgot which of the Middle Eastern countries. My husband was there one year and he explained to me what happened. So they were building these expensive bridges. And then they have this light here, lamppost. So they have so much money to spend, they have to pump their economy, keep it going. So they built this lamppost very close to each other. Well, you don't need it, right? Like on the bridge you walk, you could see the light shine, and it's just, the radius would just go that far. But they're building them, they have so much money to spend, they build them so close together. This is a lamppost, you don't need so many so close together. So yeah, I don't know why I have double lamps, but okay, never mind. They look like tree, but this is a lamppost. So yeah, they do that, and then the king of that country, I forgot what country, so will give the open ceremony. He would drive with his limousine, over, and they would light up all these lights across the whole bridge. And when he's over, and that's it. That's the only time they use it. That's it. Because, nobody uses it. That they spend it for just that one time. So this is called government waste. But they have to do it because, so that's kind of like the idea behind this rent seeking. Okay, because they have to spend money. Private contractor often deliver the computer service at much lower cost. Why is that? Because if you're a private entity, you have incentive to save costs. But if you're government entity, you say, oh, that's okay, the state pays for it. I'll just stay in a nice hotel, I'll just go for sightseeing when the state paid for me to go for conferences, things like that. So there's certain ways involved here. But if you're a private entity, you care about cutting costs, saving money. But if you're government, you say, oh yeah, this is taxpayers' money. But so a lot of time we joke among professors or colleagues, we say, be careful now, you're spending the state money. This is all taxpayers' money. Be careful how you spend. Is it efficient to reduce government waste? I'm talking about a lot of waste here, right? Inefficiency by reducing tax collection. Some of you might be tempted to say yes, but the correct answer is we still need to collect tax. Because remember when you have negative externality, in order to correct that inefficiency, you implement tax or tolls, collect tolls on the highway expressway. Or you make people pay penalty, pay a fine. If you smoke in a dormitory, you pay a fine, for example. Okay, things like that. Because tax has its own merit. That is, it does correct negative externality. And you could raise sufficient revenue to finance public goods and services. Yeah. Where do all this money comes from? Beautiful park, beautiful public school, all that. It comes from taxpayers' money. So yeah, we do want to collect tax. Hopefully you can minimize the side effects of the tax. Okay. So now we're talking about crowding out. Remember that we talked about that the other day. From 1969 to 1998, federal government ran the budget deficit. And then during the Clinton's administration, things got better. The U.S. economy actually experienced some sort of a surplus during Clinton's administration. And then Bush came in and things got worse again, and Bush was really big on saving on tax. The federal government finances the deficit by borrowing. That's the common things to do. This is a little bit of macroeconomics now. And then if you keep borrowing and the deficit get worse and worse, you have crowding out effect. So I was talking to one of the group the other day, macroeconomic group, about crowding out effect. So this is your capital market. This is not in your book, but therefore I draw the graph here, okay? So in your capital market, you have your demand curve for investment. So this is your investment function, downward sloping. The demand for capital is basically your investment. So write this down because this is not in your book. Your supplies of capital is your savings. Where do you get capital? From your savings. So this is the equilibrium, and this is your R, or real interest rate, on your y-axis. And then here's your R star, which is equilibrium real interest rate. Here's your I star and S star. So right here. Now, so every time that you experience so-called deficit, the government savings will drop. So deficit means if there's a deficit, your saving will decline from, say, S to S prime. So then your equilibrium will be higher. Say this is A, this is B. Now, if that happened, you could see that your real interest rate goes up. And when your real interest rate goes up, your private investment comes down. So this is known as very famous economic term, crowding out effect. Okay, so because the government borrowing to try to finance their deficit, which is what the US government is going through now. Does everybody know that we borrowed so much from China? And China's GDP is number 2 in the world, next to US. But yet their, what do we call, the GDP per capita is so low because they have such a big population. You divide the GDP by the big population. But we owe them so much. So how does the government, US government, finance the deficit? Oh, by borrowing more, please. Stop that, you know? So because you want to balance a budget, right now, to just even talk about balancing the budget is a joke because it's so far away now. Have to do something. Okay. So because if you borrow, then deficit, the savings function shift to the left, and then you actually discourage private business from investing further. And that's why sometimes we say fiscal policy is not so efficient, so it's better to use a monetary policy or changing the interest rate. Okay, that's a little bit more like macroeconomics. See, what should we tax? Okay, this is an important slide. If you get nothing out of today's lecture, this is the highlight. This is the gist. Because I always like to give you the big picture, you know, at the end of it, what have we learned? So don't forget Thursday we go to the lab. I'll send you a reminder. There will be a piece of assignment that's worth 10 points, so be sure you show up. We're meeting at 210 upstairs, yeah. So economic loss of a tax may be offset by the surplus created from a public good or service. Yeah, okay, so we have economic loss from the tax, we call inefficiency, but then we have public good, which is good. It also creates some sort of surplus. And you could minimize the debt wage loss, as we talked about a while ago, from a tax by taxing goods and services with an inelastic demand and support. Because we say that a while ago, I demonstrated that if it is your demand curve is inelastic, then your debt wage loss is smaller because it makes the triangle smaller. If production creates negative or positive externality, a tax may increase the economic surplus. So yeah, tax is actually good in that sense. Okay, we have 5 more minutes left, and I would like the class to help me to do a teaching evaluation, and I'm gonna wait outside, so when you come out, I'll give you your assignment back. This should not take you a long time. Could I get maybe a couple of volunteers to come help me pass this out? And thank you very much for doing the teaching evaluation for me, and don't forget, just help me to pass out some of this. And maybe Terry to pass this out. Thank you for helping. And then, let me lock off this. I will be waiting out there to give you your homework assignment after you're done, as you walk out. please help me to do it. The name of your instructor, I have to be absent when you do it. I forgot what is the section, I think it's section 2, it's ECN 2020, I believe it's section 2. Okay, the instructor's name is GAN. So I hope you know by now, because this is almost the end of the semester.
Did I give you an extra one?
Thursday, meet at VA or
We need another Scantron.
online to sign. Thank you. And Nicholas, when they finish, you have to collect all, okay? They could put it here and then you collect all, put it in an envelope and give it to Miss Tara. I'm not supposed to see it, right? Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.